Hello everyone. In this video, we will gonna learn the Monte Carlo simulation. So a little bit about Monte Carlo simulation. A Monte Carlo simulation actually runs thousands of scenarios by randomly changing the key input variables and estimate distribution of the outcomes. For example, if your outcome variable is stock price, so since we are talking about the finance, so stock price is your output variable. So what is the distribution of the stock price if you change the key input of the valuation model? So what are the key inputs of the valuation model? So you know that the growth rate, WCC, and some other components in the valuation model, you can change the valuation model's assumption randomly, and you can create a distribution of outcome, for example, stock price. Let's share my screen and learn Monte Carlo simulation. So this is a DCF model that I have already created. So if you want to learn about DCF model more, you can watch my another video about DCF model. So this model is actually the next step of the DCF model. We are running Monte Carlo simulation. So in this DCF model, we made several assumptions. These are the assumptions to calculate our free cash flow. And at last, we calculate the stock price of ABC company. Okay. So as I said earlier, I will not going to go to the DCF model because it will going to take whole another video to or whole 2 videos to calculate the DCF. So let's go to the Monte Carlo simulation. To do the Monte Carlo simulation, we need to know the mean variable and standard deviation of the input variable that you want to randomly assign. For example, in our model, the key input variable are growth rate, WCC, and for example, cost of goods sold. So let's create some random variable name. This is mean of the variable. This is standard deviation of the variable, and this is the simulated number of this variable. Okay, so this is the simulated number of the variable. For example, our variable name is growth rate and COGS to sales, so which is cost over sale, and WACC. So we don't need to know the mean and standard deviation of these 3 variables. So for the sake of simplicity, for example, we are taking some random mean and standard deviation for these 3 variables. But for your real project, you need to do some research to get the mean and standard deviation of the growth rate, COGS, and WCC. Okay. So, for example, the mean growth rate of all the companies in the US or outside of the US is, for example, 5%. Okay, 0.05. And standard deviation is, for example, 1% of the 3. And COGS, cost of goods sold over sales, for example, it is 68%, and standard deviation is 3%. WCC, weighted average cost of capital, for example, in the industry is 10%, and the standard deviation is 1.5%. So now we need to create the simulated value for these 3 input variables. Okay. So this is the Excel command that we're going to generate the simulated value, which is norm inverse. So we are creating a normal distribution of this input variable. So then we need to take the probability. So we are saying in the Excel that it should be a random probability, assign random probability, open bracket, close bracket, which means random probability between 0 and 1, then is your mean value and your standard deviation. Close the bracket. So what is the command is all about? So this command will gonna generate some random variable assigning probability between 0 and 1 based on the mean and standard deviation of this variable. So you know that if you know the mean and standard deviation of any variable in this world, you can create a random variable and create normal distribution. Okay, so if you hit this, you are getting some simulated numbers. So if you drag that, it will gonna create simulated number for COGS and WACC. So the good thing is that how do you understand that your simulated number has worked? So every time you hit F9, look, your numbers are changing. Look, your numbers are changing based on the simulation. Okay, every time you hit F9, new numbers are generating. Okay, so now what you're gonna do? Now you can go to your model and replace your original or previous input variable with the simulated number. For example, your growth rate in the model is in here in the DCF model. So this is the DCF model. So your growth rate is here. So you can just replace your growth rate with the simulated growth rate. Then you replace your COGS with your real COGS. So this is your real data of COGS. So you can replace with your simulated COGS, cost of goods sold. And for the WACC, go to the model. Here is WACC, WACC. You will gonna change the WACC with the simulated WACC. Now look, you are getting a new stock price based on the simulation. So if I do cell referencing of stock price to see how it is working, so stock price is equal to our stock price here. So you can see every time you hit F9, your simulated numbers are changing, the stock price is changing. Look how cool it is, right? It is very innovative and cool, right? Every time you hit F9, your stock price is changing because your simulated numbers are changing. So now the Monte Carlo simulation is we're gonna show, for example, you want to take 10,000 numbers or 10,000 trials or 1,000 trials, whatever it is. So 10,000 trials or 1,000 trials. Let's take 1,000 trials for the sake of simplicity. So this is 1,000. All right. So this is 1,000. Just hold on, please. All right. So we are almost there. So here is our 1,000 trial we have created. We have created our 1,000 trial. Okay. All right. All right. So just delete this. So that means if we want to get 1,000 random output based on our simulated number, we can do that by using the data table. If you don't know how to use data table, I have another video. How can you use data table or sensitivity analysis and please refer to this video. Okay. Now take the stock price or do the cell referencing. So according to the data table, first you select the whole 1,000 trial or 1,000 observations. Now go to the data, what if analysis, data table. So if you don't know which one will be selected, it should be selected column, because the trials are actually arranged in the column. So hit column and select an empty cell. Any empty cell will be fine. For example, I'm selecting this one. Okay. Now hit OK. Look how cool it is, right? So you are getting 1000 right now. You are getting 1000 random numbers or random stock price based on your simulated number. It's not random, it's just actually your output distribution of the stock price, okay, based on your simulated number. For example, look, you hit F9, every time your simulated numbers are changing, your stock price is changing, your 1000 trials are actually taking newer and newer trials, okay? Newer and newer 1000 trials. So that will gonna show you how sensitive your stock price is if you change your key input variable, for example, growth rate, COGS, WCC, in a simulated way. And you can use this simulated number in a different way. You can take the average of this number, for example, equal to average from this number to the very last number, close this. You're gonna get the average of your stock price is 146. Every time you change, the average is also changing because your simulated numbers are changing. You can create, so this is your average. Let me average stock price. So you can create some mean, median, mode. You can create range of the stock price and so on. Okay. So, and you can also create some graph as well. So let's select this 1000 output variable, go to the insert, go to the histogram, create histogram. Look, you have created a histogram which is kindly oddly looking, because maybe sometimes the stock price are actually clustered in a certain region. So this is why maybe the stock price are actually clustered here. But if you change if you hit F9, look, your distributions are actually moving because you are creating a simulated 1000 new numbers. Okay. So this is called Monte Carlo simulation. You can use Monte Carlo simulation for the sensitivity analysis of the stock price. You can use Monte Carlo simulation to show how actually your stock price is moving due to the change of your input variable, key input variable. You can take more than 1000 trials, 10,000 trials, 1 million trials, 100,000 trials. The procedures are same. You will create 1000 to 10,000. Then you're going to use the data table, use the blank space in the column row, column input cell. We're going to work. Okay. So this is actually the Monte Carlo simulation, and using Monte Carlo simulation in your project or in your model, we're going to enrich your model a lot. Okay. So we're gonna stop here for today. So if you have any question, any comment, so please ask me question in the comment box in this channel. I'm gonna try to get back to you as early as possible. Thank you for watching.